Combat procrastination with short sprints. Overcome resistance by committing to very short study sessions, such as 20 minutes, to trick the brain into starting the work. Define specific goals. Write down exactly what needs to be learned before starting a session to provide the brain with clarity and direction. Apply the 80-20 rule. Identify and focus on the critical 20% of topics that yield 80% of the results instead of trying to learn every detail equally. Prioritize high-yield material. Analyze past exam papers and summaries first to determine which topics appear most frequently before diving into study materials. Create artificial urgency. Use a timer to set strict 30-minute deadlines, forcing the brain into a hyper-focused mode to complete tasks quickly. Schedule regular breaks. Prevent burnout by taking short, 5-minute breaks between study sprints to move around or relax guilt-free. Simplify complex concepts. Test understanding by attempting to explain the material in simple terms, as if teaching a 5-year-old, to reveal any knowledge gaps. Practice active recall. Replace passive rereading with active self-testing by closing the book and retrieving information directly from memory. Utilize the blurting technique. Write down everything remembered immediately after reading a chapter to verify retention and identify missing information. Prioritize sleep and movement. Avoid all-nighters in favor of 7 to 8 hours of sleep and regular exercise, as the brain consolidates information during rest and physical activity. The student sat down at the desk with the best of intentions, but suddenly the smartphone transformed into the most fascinating object in the universe. After watching just one more video and debating the urgent necessity of a snack, the student began to genuinely question whether a university degree was necessary or if a career as a llama farmer might be a more viable path. It was a familiar scene, hours spent staring blankly at notes, falling into the 90% majority of learners who waste time without actually absorbing anything. However, this student was about to discover a way to learn faster, retain more, and still have ample time to binge-watch television series. The transformation began with the expectation hack. Understanding that a lazy brain allows work to expand to fill the time available, a phenomenon known as Parkinson's law, the student decided to trick their mind. Instead of facing a terrifying 3-hour session, they committed to a mere 20-minute sprint. Because the task seemed so easy, the brain stopped resisting, and once the momentum started, it was easy to keep going with clear, specific goals. Next, the student abandoned perfectionism in favor of the 80-20 rule. Realizing that not all topics were created equal, they stopped wasting energy on random details. By analyzing past papers and summaries, they identified the critical 20% of material that would yield 80% of the results, focusing their efforts where it truly mattered rather than waiting until the last minute. To maintain this momentum, the timer method was deployed to create artificial urgency. By setting a timer for 30 minutes, the student entered a hyper-focused speed mode, studying as if it were an emergency. This was followed by a guilt-free 5-minute break to stretch or scroll. To prevent cheating, they even used an app where leaving the study screen would result in the tragic death of a virtual tree, using guilt as a powerful motivator. When concepts became difficult, the student applied the Feynman Technique. Pretending to teach the material to a 5-year-old, they stripped away fancy jargon and used simple language. Whenever they stumbled or couldn't explain something simply, they knew exactly where their knowledge had gaps and went back to review, ensuring true understanding rather than simple memorization. Instead of passively rereading the textbook, the students switched to active recall, the cheat code for memory. They closed the book and forced their brain to retrieve key points, testing themselves constantly. They even used the blurting technique, writing down everything they could remember after reading a chapter to see what stuck. Finally, the student accepted that pulling an all-nighter was a terrible strategy. Learning that the brain actually processes and stores information during sleep, they opted for a solid 8 hours of rest. They also incorporated short walks, understanding that exercise and sleep were essentially free upgrades for the brain. By applying these 6 strategies, the student went from dreaming of llama farming to becoming a productivity machine, proving that applied knowledge is the true power and making studying feel almost mega efficient.